Hi again, Rampage fans. Welcome to another edition of Views from the Press Box, our video blog online that you can find at sarampage.com. On today's show, we're going to dive into free agency and the free agency frenzy that took place over the last couple of weeks with the Phoenix Coyotes and their decisions that impact the San Antonio Rampage. We're also going to take a look back at the National Hockey League entry draft, which took place a couple of weeks ago, tell you who the Coyotes selected and whether or not any of those players might find a home in a Rampage uniform sooner rather than later. And we're also going to preview an exciting event upcoming, our live web chat, which comes your way this Thursday on sarampage.com. So sit back and enjoy the show. So there's an old saying in professional sports that, hey, if you can't beat them, you might as well join them. And as the Rampage and Phoenix Coyotes kicked off free agency last week, San Antonio, through the Phoenix Coyotes, was actually very active in plucking away several members of the Texas Stars, the team that advanced, of course, to the Calder Cup Finals this past season. We'll get to some of the new names in just a second, but first the Rampage brought back a familiar face in goaltender Al Montoya, signing Al to a one-year deal. Now, Al posted a record of 4-7-1 last season in 14 games with a 2.65 goals against average and a save percentage of 90.4%. Then, of course, he suffered a season-ending shoulder injury in a game on November 24th against the Milwaukee Admirals. If you remember, Montoya, he had a great start to the season last year. He was penciled in by Greg Ireland to basically be the #1 goaltender, and he won 4 of his first 6 starts. But he didn't win again in his last 9 appearances following an October 18th victory against Grand Rapids. Al's kind of struggled in his last couple of seasons with the Rampage. There's no doubt about that. He's only 11-24-1 in his last 2 seasons. He needs to prove that he can be a consistent #1 goalie in the AHL. He should come into this season pretty focused, knowing that with this contract, it's likely going to be one of his final opportunities to prove that he can not only be a consistent goalie at the AHL level, but he can also get a shot at the National Hockey League level as well. Now, what about those Texas Stars that are now coming down the I-35 to join the Rampage? Well, most notably, goaltender Matt Climie will join Al Montoya as the goaltending tandem for San Antonio next year. Climie was 21-17-3 in 43 games for the Stars last year. He had a 2.46 goals against average and a 91.9% save percentage. Climie took over as the Stars' #1 goalie after Brent Cron, former Rampage goalie, suffered an injury on November 22nd, and he didn't return until March. In that time, Matt Climie went 14-11-1 as the Stars' #1 netminder. Climie then also took over during the Stars' playoff run in Game 6 of the West Division Finals against Chicago after Cron left that game with a concussion. He started 13 consecutive games, going 7-6 during the Stars' run to the Calder Cup Finals, and most notably won 2 Game 7s on the road, one in Chicago in the West Division semifinals, or the West Division Finals rather, and then 1 Game 7 in the Western Conference Finals on the road in Hamilton. Also in that Hamilton series, he made 51 saves in a Game 6, a 2-1 victory in Hamilton to stave off elimination for Texas. Ironically, Climie didn't have a lot of great success against the Rampage. He was just 1-3 against the Silver and Black, but did have a good 2.50 goals against average. Climie's a big goalie. He's coming into his 3rd season. He stands 6'3", 205 pounds, takes up a lot of the net. He's a good technical goaltender, and obviously, winning 2 Game 7s on the road in the playoffs, he has a penchant for coming up big in critical clutch situations. So that's obviously a good positive when you look at Matt Climie. Now, the Coyotes also went out and signed 3 other players who project to likely be with the Rampage at the start of next season. They signed forward Matthew Beaudoin from the Texas Stars and 2 defensemen, Garrett Stafford from the Texas Stars and former Milwaukee Admirals captain Nolan Youngman. Now, Beaudoin actually played 1 game with the San Antonio Rampage back in the 2008-2009 season, recorded an assist in that game, and he was a call-up from the Las Vegas Wranglers at the time. Beaudoin has bounced around the American Hockey League the last couple of years before finally being able to settle down into a role with the Texas Stars last season and had a real nice breakout season, as he stuck with the Stars, posting 19 goals and 44 points in 72 games. He also added 4 goals and 3 assists in 22 playoff games during the Stars' run. Beaudoin can play either the wing or center. He's very versatile, and he can play the power play too, and he figures to find a role on the Rampage's 2nd line next season. So a good offensive boost with the addition of Matthew Beaudoin. As for Garrett Stafford, he's a 7-year veteran, a power play specialist. He finished 2nd among Texas Blue Liners last year in scoring with 7 goals and 32 points in 60 games. He also had 4 goals and 10 points in 21 playoff games. Stafford has posted 4 seasons of 40 points or more during his 7-year AHL career, and he's been one of the premier offensive defensemen in the AHL over that time. It's not surprising to see the Rampage go and take 3 of the Texas Stars, because every time I talked to Coach Ray Edwards last year, he told me how much he marveled at the Stars, particularly their work ethic and their discipline under head coach Glenn Gulletson. And with the Stars having a lot of free agents available, I just got the feeling that Ray Edwards liked a lot of what was going on up on I-35 in the Texas capital. So he's brought a few pieces of that Texas team, Matthew Baudouin, Garrett Stafford, and Matt Climie, down to San Antonio to try and instill not only some of that discipline and hard work, but hopefully some of that success as well for next year. Now, the third piece that the Rampage added comes by way of the Milwaukee Admirals. Nolan Yonkman, a big 6'6", 250-pound defenseman, who's been around the American Hockey League for quite some time, going into his 10th season. He spent the last 4 years in Milwaukee, the last 2 of them as the Admirals captain. And not only is he big, but he brings a physical presence. That was evidenced by his career-high 170 penalty minutes last season. Yonkman is likely going to fill one of the leadership roles on the Rampage, and that's projected to be vacated by some of the outgoing veterans. One of them already gone, Joel Perreault, who signed a free agent contract with the Vancouver Canucks on the first day of free agency last week. He likely figures to be starting with the Manitoba Moose. But back to Yonkman, just having a guy of his experience and ability, he figures to be a good mentor for some of those young Rampage defensemen that are going to be coming in next year, talking about Chris Summers and Maxim Goncharov, as some of the players continue to develop in the Coyotes and the Rampage pipeline. So, free agent frenzy underway. Coyotes and Rampage make a good splash in the early going. We'll see what other decisions, what other moves they make as free agency continues this summer. Well, the National Hockey League had their amateur entry draft just a little over a week and a half ago, and the Phoenix Coyotes made 5 selections during that 2-day event. Some of them who one day may end up in these hallowed halls of the Rampage locker room. Coyotes got a real steal in the first round. They were picking 13th overall, and they were able to select Moncton Wildcats defenseman Brandon Gormley. Gormley, who in some mock drafts was projected to go high as the 4th overall pick, had 9 goals and 43 points in 58 games for Moncton. He's likely to return for another season, and May after that, he might jump directly from the junior ranks all the way to the Phoenix Coyotes blue line. At number 27, with their 2nd selection in the opening round, the Coyotes took goalie Mark Vicentin from the Niagara Ice Dogs. Vicentin had a record of 24, 26, and 5 as a 17-year-old, a 2.99 goals against average. He's also likely to go back to Niagara for another season. On day 2, the Coyotes selecting another goaltender along with 2 forwards. They take Brampton Battalion forward Philip Lane, Swedish center Oscar Lindberg, and goalie Louis Dominique, who split last season with Moncton and Quebec in the Quebec Major Junior League. So a look at some of the Coyotes draft selections, players who one day may end up playing for the Rampage down the road. Now don't forget, this coming Thursday, we are going to have an all-time first and history in the making on SARampage.com, our first ever live web chat hosted by yours truly. That'll be from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'll be answering your questions about Rampage free agency, plans for the 2010-2011 season for the San Antonio Rampage in regards to promotions and other events going on here at the AT&T Center, and of course any of your questions regarding the ongoings of the Silver and Black, the San Antonio Rampage, for next season. So be sure to join us for our live web chat again from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. this coming Thursday on SARampage.com. We hope to see you there. That'll do it for another edition of Views from the Press Box. For SARampage.com, I'm Dan Weiss.